Okay, so if it's you that's born with the North Node in Aquarius and the South Node in Leo, there is a very natural tendency towards the feeling of being almost entitled to be seen, or a certain natural sense of, well, the way I am will naturally gain the attention and recognition and the things that I'm after in terms of validation from others without necessarily me doing any work. And very often this is not a conscious understanding. This is an inbuilt behavior of, well, I'm just going to do me, and I don't have to do X, Y, and Z to be seen as an individual, or um, to be rewarded, basically, or to gain the recognition that I want, or that I naturally already have. And I think it's funny in a way, because the people I know with Aquarius North nodes are not necessarily the most extroverted or loud people. There's almost like an inner kind of quietness, or an inner sense of, I'll I'll do me, and I'll just be me without necessarily having to do anything to get attention, or steal people's focus, I guess. Um, so I suppose a really good way to understand this polarity, this lifetime, is the pull towards developing one's own uniqueness, and instead of just naturally feeling entitled to attention, or conversely naturally feeling like one does their own thing without separating too much from the crowd. That there's this pull this time towards very much wanting to do things in one's own way, in ways that are going to be quiet, that are going to stretch you, or stretch the person in ways that are quite uncomfortable, because they can be quite different, and the inclinations and the things you're interested in, or how you want to do things, might be quite outside of the scope of how your family does things, how your culture does things. And that can be not even necessarily the actual things you're interested in, but the ways in which you want to achieve these things, and the ways that you want to express your personalized uniqueness. That isn't necessarily the kind that is something that's automatically accepted, or something that it's almost like there's going to be a bit of work here, and there's going to be not so much a work towards recognition, but work towards really becoming your own person, and really developing the skills and involving yourself in the interests of which you truly desire. And again, not the things that you desire that are going to get you the attention and recognition, but ones that are, what is it that you really, really, really want to do, and what is the longing within your soul that is, in some way, it's quite, I'm trying to figure a word here, can be threatening in a sense, because these things, the things you're pulled towards, are not necessarily things that those around you are automatically going to accept, or automatically going to be seen as something that's going to be healthy for you, or that even is you. Because it's going to seem sometimes like, okay, you're interested in this, but I can't see that working, for instance. Like, I can't see you doing this. Or if you do this, you're sure you're not going to have to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G to get there. It's almost like it's acknowledging people care about your direction, and acknowledging where that you're wanting to follow your own path. But it's also, usually that comes with I care about you, and these are things that maybe you should take into consideration. And maybe whilst taking into consideration some things people say, ultimately it really has to be what your heart is longing, and or more or less what your mind and your curiosity is pulling you towards is what matters this time. So this, in addition to the things that are propelling you forward, it's less about the me and how you consider people, how people see you and how you see yourself, but it's more being propelled to the things that to do with, I suppose, group consciousness. So things that are outside the box and potentially can benefit more than just you and your close knit group. Like, it's thinking bigger and more laterally and more in some ways long term, and in some ways doing things purely for the innovation, the creativity that it's going to be bringing to both you and the people around you. Learning to find a balance between being the lone wolf and also needing the love and attention is going to be quite a big thing for you. And it might feel like you don't know which one's either more natural, what do you need the most, but naturally wanting attention and wanting the love without really trying, and ultimately seeking some sort of more alone time or more time to be you. This is a dynamic and a polarity that I noticed is experienced quite often with people with this position. It's understanding it's both. You don't need to be the full loner, the full hermit, the crazy scientist kind of archetype, because in some ways that might really push you away from that love and attention, which a part of your soul will still need. Like, this is something that's so habitual for you, but at the same time not to let that need for the love and attention and to be recognized, not being caught in that you can't propel yourself forward and you're not allowing yourself to grow and transform. As your need for others is still high, it's doing stuff that's not necessarily against a group or against something in society just for the sake of it. So really starting to learn, maybe when you're younger there's that more of a rebellious, I'll just do this because I want to do my own thing. But in time, or at some point in a lifetime, it's really understanding that what you're doing is for something. It's just a pull, and it's something you can't exactly explain, and it's not necessarily just to be different or to still get some attention for just getting the focus off that need for attention, because that's going to be quite strong, more so than your everyday person. Because at the end of the day, like, don't worry, most of us want the attention, and with the Leo South Node, it's so ingrained that kind of recognition and almost a sense of, I say entitlement, because when I think of Leo South Nodes, it doesn't even matter if you come from money or not. It's like this feeling of royalty in a way, like somewhere in the psyche. It's like, back in the Egyptian days, being, the queen, or having royal blood, or whatever it is. There's that feeling, that essence of this. A couple other things I wanted to add as well. I think coming into a time now where we are at the very, very early stages of just over 2,000 year period of the age of Aquarius. So what society's cultivating at the moment and the direction it's going is something that you're going to understand. Like, you're going to really want to move forward with the changes in technology and the way we utilize our minds, and even understanding more new age concepts. It's allowing these new concepts to get in and to saturate yourself in a way that will naturally ignite your own creativity and your own innovation, and your spark of genius will develop here. So it's not like you're going the other way. It's not like what society's doing now is going to be something that you're scared of and you're resentful of. It's there's it's learning what's working in society and the things that you can add, and really being on the positive, not snowball, but being on the positive path with the aspects of the Aquarian kind of ideologies. And that is connection, that is people having their own right to things. It is understanding our most human nature, and as well as understanding with the capacity to self-realize and to self-actualize and become the most whole, integrated version of ourselves. It's understanding that we're all connected, but we all have that bit of different, and we all have these idiosyncrasies, and we all have, this is all very Aquarian energy. And if you're pulled towards the different in the arts or in I said arts, honestly anything, that's the Aquarian energy there. It's that different kind of feel. It's the novel concepts that create those new synaptic pathways in the brain. There's new neural pathways that feels like you're expanding, and it feels like you're not being stuck in some box, and things aren't being done the same way over and over. It's science energy. It's breaking things for the first time. It's understanding how something works for the first time. So any suggestions that I'd like to pass on is more or less how to integrate Aquarian energy more into your life. So connecting with people of respective interests, or things that you are interested in that maybe your main group of friends aren't really connected to in some way. So reaching out, whether it's online or in the community, in your local community, things that are really going to get you to think differently, and the ability to instill new projects and ideas. Following your excitement, like following what is it that's really pulling you towards it. So being aware of the fears that are going to be associated with new directions, but also at any given time, like let go of the outcome of what you want and just be pulled towards that which excites you. And sensibly speaking, but yeah, just understanding that spark is that's your soul going yep, and learning that way. So also learning to integrate both your ability to think rationally and to think more with your mind as well as your heart. So that excitement isn't necessarily your heart. That's that, again, that novel kind of excitement in your brain that's linking with your heart at the same time. Like that to me is what excitement is. Meditation is going to be huge. So the ability to detach from a very emotionally charged brain, from doing things my way and things the way I want, doing things, learning to cultivate and even understand that there is something beyond that mind, and working with that in time. So for now that might seem quite foreign, but meditation and seeing the you that's outside of your mind, I think is really, or your single self, is going to be extraordinarily powerful. Mixing things up, so how you do things. If you're a person of routine, learning to, yes, have some routine, but every now and then do something a little bit different, even if it's just mixing up one day a week or just slightly changing things. I think to wrap up here, I think the biggest thing to really start to pay attention to, and there's only going to be a certain point before you feel like you're going crazy, but at least start to be aware of the synchronicities and the coincidences in your life, and to understand that is a part of you that's waking up, and that part of you that's waking up is that Uranian energy. That kind of synchronous energy is very much seeing things in a non-linear, non-ordinary way, but in ways that ultimately make sense, and there are connections through these. So synchronicities, meditation, doing things in new ways, integrating heart and mind together, so detaching but also still maintaining like what matters to you. networking, connecting with people you wouldn't usually connect with but have similar interests, these kinds of things. So yeah, I get really excited about this. I don't know if it's because I'm strongly Uranian or Saturnian, Aquarian, basically, but yeah, I've seen people around me that no matter what, no matter how much they're pulled towards the different, there's big parts of them that are so still caught up in the what will people think mode, and it's gradually over time allowing that to slide just little by little. You don't need to jump straight out that you're left feeling like, what have I done? Like, who have I become? Like, I don't even know what's happening anymore. You don't have to do it in a sudden, like this sort of propulsive energy. You don't need to. It can be bit by bit, kind of slowly integrating a bit of new and different. Yeah. So, oh, and lastly, the other thing is, if you haven't already started to do this, recognize your own prejudices and your own biases, and you don't need to change these as such, but to recognize them for what they are, and also understanding within others their right for certain biases and prejudices and the reasons why, and over time develop a kind of it's less about compassion, more about just understanding how people work, how people's minds work. And then once you start to do that, instead of forcing yourself to remove judgment and prejudice and all these other things that can limit people, it's with the recognition, over time there will be a call to kind of drop these things that that can keep you kind of hung up, or other people hung up. So yeah, that's probably the last thing I want to say. And if anyone would like time to have one-on-one chats in the form of consults, or if anyone's got any specific questions that can potentially help them be guided to understand things a bit more in detail, then definitely let me know. You can contact me on here, and I'll also provide a link if you want to contact me on Facebook as well. So yes, hope this was helpful, and yeah, I'll talk to you soon hopefully. Thank you.